Welcome back, adventurers, once again to Let's Play ChäoS. In the last episode, Yazuji-ban managed to get a glimpse of Sena Aoi on videotape as she went after one of Nozomi's Noa-2 porters, and understandably was dumbstruck by the fact that she managed to manifest her D-sword in a public place and destroy the device in question. Of course, being an on-the-beat detective, Ban has absolutely no idea of where or how Sena acquired that sword in the first place, not that we know how she got it either. And speaking of which, Takumi Nisajo woke up in the hospital, probably AH General Hospital, given the fact that Nurse Hazuki is here, and he actually had a dream of a memory of a time when he was in the hospital with none other than Nanami playing nurse. But in any event, Takumi has reawoken to the real world. This is Nurse Hazuki-san.
お体の調子はどうですか?
Hazuki held out a thermometer out to me. The gesture came naturally to her. I just sort of ended up taking it.
体温を測ってくださいね。
Bit odd. If you speak to me that kindly, I'm not going to be able to do anything but meekly obey. My head was full of question marks, but for the time being I stuck the thermometer in my armpit. Immediately after, memories erupted inside my head. I remembered those events, when you literally gave up on saving Nanami altogether. And what happened afterwards. At the time, I'd given up on saving Nanami, and I'd seized at the wheelchair-riding Shogun, who wasn't Shogun but an imposter. But I didn't feel anything there, and what I found myself holding when I toppled over was a Darth Spider helmet. Count Darth Spider, the archetypical villain who'd appeared in the movie Spark Wars. His black swathed silhouette was famous even in Japan. I think I saw that mentioned in Steins Gate, Spark Wars. But I had such a hard time thinking of Shogun as being a Darth Spider cosplayer that it set my wrath flying away, leaving me totally at sea. In other words, this person was only pretending to be Shogun, wasn't actually the real thing. But whoever he is, imposter or not, he has Nanami. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it. I got up and looked at the wheelchair. No one was sitting in it. A black hood was draped across the backrest. It too was part of the Darth Spider costume. I went on to survey the area, but there was no one up there. I was the only person who had been up on that black pitch roof. In other words, we were duped right from the very start. The press corps came dashing up there simultaneously. They packed in around me without leaving a single gap, pointing microphones and spotlights at me. Well over 10 lights and microphones. Their excessive glitter almost terrified me. I wanted to flee, but I couldn't budge an inch. They mobbed me. This doesn't seem natural in the slightest. In fact, I wonder if Noah too has had a hand in all this. By extension,
Nishoku,帽子はどうなっちゃったのかな?
結局、ニュージェルの犯人は誰なのかわからないということですか?
Yeah, we were scapegoats.
そのダーススパイダーのヘルメットは何か超能力と関係あるのかな? 日常さん、答えてくれませんか? これで終わりなんて言うなら電波ジャックですよ.
結局何がしたかったんです? ニュージェネに便乗した売名行為ですか？不謹慎だと思わないんですか？
ビューリー・ブライトマンさんとは先に話したかな？どんなこと話した？
地震とニュージェネについて何か関係あると思いますか？
その手に持っている美少女フィギュアは何らかの意識的なアイテムと考えていいんですか？
このような行動を取ったことにはアニメやゲームの影響はあったのかな？
西条さん、
西条さん、
西条君。
That seemed evil and incredibly hot. It felt like getting my skin burned by the midsummer sun. The media people flooding in made it stuffy in my head. The field of sight swirled around and around, being driven into a corner. Panicking, it hurt to breathe, and cradled my hair. I couldn't see anything. I didn't want to see anything. I couldn't hear anything. I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't feel anything. I didn't want to feel anything.
やめてくれ！
At the same time that I'd shouted, my consciousness cut off as though it had been short-circuited. Well, that explains why we ended up in the hospital, brought here by an ambulance. Yes, I'd lost consciousness. And then afterwards, how did I end up in this hospital, aside from an ambulance? I couldn't remember. At least I didn't think I'd come here on my own 2 feet. Maybe I've been carried over by an ambulance. Judging by that siren, that is a likely reality. Hazuki-san was writing something down on the clipboard she carried. It must have been holding paper or something. Was she writing about my condition? I confirmed the time by peering at the plain-looking watch on her wrist. Yeah, whoever was impersonating Shogun, they set up one hell of a show. After 6 a.m., I must have slept for quite a while. Even so, why'd I been taken to this hospital? Well, time for a pleasant daydream in this instance. Hazuki-san being here meant that this was the hospital I usually went to. There certainly wasn't anything strange about them bearing me to a general hospital, but something about it didn't quite fit together. The question of why Hazuki-san has come to check on me nagged at me. After all, Hazuki-san was a psychiatric nurse. If she'd come to look in on me as well, didn't that mean that this room was part of the psychiatric ward as well?
それにしても驚いた。
Eyes wide, Hazuki-san studied my face intently.
まさか西条さんが目覚めるなんて。
A way of putting it sounds like it made it sound like it was strange for me to have woken up. Was she being sarcastic? Her demeanor says otherwise. Did she want to say that someone as shameful as me would cause less trouble for everyone around me if I'd stayed asleep for the rest of my life? Having even a nurse imply such things made me seriously want to die. Yet the facts of which Hazuki-san spoke were unexpected and utterly different from what I was imagining.
あなたはこの1ヶ月近くずっと昏睡状態だったんですよ。
Wait, is that true?
原因不明のまま眠り続けていたんです。
How bizarre. What had she just said? How long was a month ago?
今日って。
落ち着いて聞いてくださいね。今日は10月28日です。
October 28th. It matched the date in my memory. 1 month earlier would mean ever since the time I'd witnessed the staking, I went speechless.
あ、そうだ。先生に伝えないといけませんよね。こんなにのんびり検温してる場合じゃなかったわ。ここで待っていてくださいね。すぐに先生を呼んできますから。
Curious. After rattling this off without leaving room for an answer, or any room for an answer, Hazuki-san dashed hastily out of the hospital bedroom.
僕が1ヶ月昏睡状態だった。
I muttered dazedly, looking down at the palm of my hand. In other words, everything from the past month had been a dream, maybe even a delusion. I couldn't possibly anticipated the "it was all a dream" twist, even though that's normally a cliche by this point. But mysteriously there was nothing unpleasant about it. I had a surprisingly easy time accepting it when I heard it had been a dream. Perhaps a bit too easy. And when I thought about it harder, things like D-swords and making delusions real were simply impossible. Everything had been a delusion, purely delusions of my own creation. It was too bad that meeting Rimi had been a dream. But Shogun wasn't targeting me. And I hadn't become the laughingstock of all Japan. And Nanami hadn't been abducted. Thank goodness.
よかった。
My field of sight blurred, and when I looked up to keep from crying, Hazuki-san entered. Her eyes went a bit round when she saw me.
あら。西条さん、目が覚めたんですね。
Huh. We, having a sense of deja vu here. She soon gave me a gentle smile. Puzzled, I found myself unable to move.
お体の調子はどうですか？
Hazuki-san held out a thermometer to me. The gesture came naturally to her. I just sort of ended up taking it. Yeah, we've been through this
体温
before.
を測ってくださいね。
I gulped as I accepted the thermometer. It was the same. We were repeating the same thing as before, which meant that what just happened with Hazuki a moment ago was a delusion. But there was no transition that time. No sequence of events. Hazuki-san acted like she'd entered the room for the first time, which, in hindsight, is probably correct. Which probably means that we might not have spent an entire month in a coma after all. I tentatively felt at my armpit. I'd stuck a thermometer in there just a second ago. Despite that, interesting. So our delusion was somehow a sense of precognition gone. The thermometer disappeared. Did we somehow anticipate the future? Had it been delusionary? Where did the delusion end and reality begin? Am I being targeted by Shogun and becoming the laughingstock of all Japan? Were those parts real? Probably, is my answer to it. My mood dropped to depression in the blink of an eye.
昨日ご家族がお見えになっていたんですけど、西条さんの意識が戻らないので、日付が変わる頃にお帰りになりました。
I'm assuming, of course, Hazuki is referring to Takumi's parents, since if this is reality, then Nanami Nishijo is still missing. And of course, if that is the case, then Takashina is still dead.
今日は診察時間が始まる頃にお母様が来るそうですよ。
Lacking the energy to answer, I nodded at her. I must be the most disgraceful son in Japan. No, in the whole world. I've been broadcast on live TV of all things. My moment of shame had aired throughout the nation of Japan. It had definitely been uploaded to YouTube too. I had no clue why I'd been set up as a miracle ESPO boy, or ESPO boy. On top of that, it was abnormal for them to do a live broadcast of my every little move on the day of such an enormous earthquake. I could only assume that everyone really did have their minds controlled by Shogun. They had their minds controlled, alright. It wasn't Shogun. In any case, I've been publicly disgraced. This wasn't something mild enough to stop at an online lynching. Would I be able to live uneventfully from now on? That ship has sunk. Suddenly Nanami's face rose at the back of my mind. I bit my lip and clenched at my knees. Even so, if I'd been able to help Nanami, none of it would have been a problem. Jury's still out on that one, though. I wouldn't have minded if everyone in the world had laughed mockingly at me, saying, "What a pathetic guy," for the rest of my life. But I hadn't even been able to save Nanami.
だな。
Great big tears poured out of me.
どうしました？どこか痛みます？
That's one diagnosis. I went on weeping as I shook my head over and over. Nanami was dead. Nanami would never come back. It was my fault. My fault, my fault, my fault. Yes, it is, Takumi. Because I was useless, Nanami had died. Coaxed by my weak heart's words, I'd been in a rush to give up on obtaining my D-sword. Come to think of it, there was something that kind of glinted at being a sword, but it wasn't. A trick of light? Or perhaps something else. I'd viewed myself as a poor little victim. I'd chosen to stay alive, even at the cost of sacrificing Nanami. I loathed my no-good self from the bottom of my heart. If back then, if I had tried only a little harder, even though it had been my own decision to give up, I looked back when everything was already done with and regretted my actions. That was the absolute worst thing about me. Thoughts wouldn't save anyone. Even so, I couldn't help thinking along those lines. I'd try a little harder if only I could rewind time and go back. Unfortunately, time leap machines do not work in the universe of ChäoS yet, at least. I'll have to wait until another year for that to happen, and even then, it wouldn't help. Although if I actually did go back there, I'd surely make the same excuses and give up again, creating an unfortunate time loop, out of Steins Gate and Steins Gate 0. I'm always like that. It truly was beyond helping.
ななみ、ごめん。ななみ。
Hazuki-san rubbed my back as though to soothe me. I was a hopeless guy through and through. I was even giving an unrelated nurse a hard time. But my tears wouldn't do me the favor of stopping.
何か後悔していることがあるんですね。
Very much so.
でもきっと妹さんも許してくれますよ。
How did you know Nanami was my little sister? Besides, I didn't need some time-worn words of comfort. Sorry, Hazuki-san, but it's not like another person is gonna understand what I feel like. I truly detested and felt ashamed of myself, always being spoiled by others, only thinking of myself. Too late for that now. A person like me ought to die. Maybe I should seriously give death a try.
昨日もしきりに西条さんのことを心配していましたよ。
Wait,
とても可愛らしい妹さんですね。
she?
ナナミは、妹は、死にました。
Abducted by Shogun, with her arm cut off, confined somewhere. In the end, she probably died alone. My heart seemed about to tear asunder when I imagined it.
そうなんですか？ごめんなさい。勘違いしてしまって。
Pray tell, what kind of mistake was that, Hazuki? Until now, I'd always thought Nanami was obnoxious, but when you got down to it, we were siblings who had been raised together for 16 years. She'd always fretted over me, even while calling me an idiot and a stupid head. She'd been loud and persistent because she was constantly attempting to bring my life out of dissipation. When she brought provisions from home, instead of just chucking them at me, she invariably tried to eat together with me. Usually, a girl of her age would totally ignore a creepy otaku brother like me. Nanami spoke ill of me, but she spoke to me all the same. She'd listen to what I had to say as well. That she did. Even at school, far from avoiding me, she'd come up to me of her own accord, regardless of whether or not she had some intention of her own in mind. Sometimes she did, sometimes she didn't. Even with an otaku freak and virgin like me, Nanami always saw me as her only big brother, and as an individual human being. Her existence had been a huge source of support for me, though it was too late to realize it now, especially since you all but spat in the face of that kindness.
でも、だとしたら鬼ってどういう意味なのかしら。
There's that discrepancy again. Not quite comprehending what she'd said, I raised my head. The blurriness of tears made it hard to see Hazuki-san's expression. What did she say just now?
眠ってる西条さんをお兄、お兄と何度も呼んでいたから、その印象が強くて。
A person who calls me that. There's only one.
それ、本当ですか？
I unthinkingly sprang out of bed and pressed in on Hazuki-san.
はい何がです？
ナナミが、妹がナナミがここに来てたんですか？
いえ、はっきりお名前を聞いたわけでは。
僕のこと鬼って呼んでたんですね。
ええ。
ナナミは今どこに？
ですから、昨日はお帰りになりましたけど。
Is that true? Did that really happen? Or was Hazuki mistaken? Or perhaps is some other phenomenon at
西
work
条さ
here?
んのお母様と一緒に。
怪我とかしてませんでしたか？
はい。いえ、特には。
元気だったんですね。ナナミは元気だったんですね。
はい。いえ、ななみさんかどうかはわかりませんけど、昨日いらしていた女の子は元気そうでしたよ。
Girl who came here yesterday. Nanami was alive. As far as I could tell from Hazuki-san's words, there was no mistaking it. Stupefied, I sat back down on the bed. How on earth? Even though Shogun said he wouldn't give Nanami back unless I cleared the quest, surely he hadn't sympathized with us and released her, or I doubt that very much. Something truly strange is happening here. Or had Nanami escaped under her own power? But then how was I supposed to explain the hand that had gotten sent to me? According to Hazuki-san, Nanami hadn't been injured at all.
もしかしたら君の家に送ったあの手首は別人のものかもしれないよ。
I still have doubts about that myself. Those words hadn't been a lie. I'd been dancing on the palm of Shogun's hand. I wouldn't be so quick to jump to that conclusion. Something still seems odd about all this. He'd only been deceiving me. No, at this point I didn't care a bit about getting deceived.
そっか。
I see, that's how it was. Nanami had never been kidnapped from the start. Well, the only way we can prove that is by calling your parents. While I desperately tried to grasp onto my disordered O-front, Nanami must have been lazing around at home reading manga or going to karaoke with her friends and showcasing her shitty singing voice. If only I could say that for certain. But something tells me I can't. Despite the fact I was crying, laughter bubbled up inside me.
西条さん
I think Takumi is broken.
将軍にまんまと騙された。なんという壮大な釣りだよ。
Nanami was alive. She was alive. I could see that goddamn impudent face of hers again. I could hear her yappy, annoying voice. The thought of it filled my whole heart with relief, and joy surged through me.
よかった。
My tears wouldn't stop. But these weren't the tears of frustration I'd wept previously.
よかった。
I was a useless guy, beyond all salvation. Yesterday, too, I'd given up on trying to do something about it with my own strength. But even so, as long as Nanami was alive, I wouldn't seek anything else. Like I cared if the rest of the world mocked me with its laughter. I was truly glad. I still have doubts in the back of my mind. That's too convenient. And meanwhile, we are elsewhere again. Back at the Shibuya Police Department's internal meetings. But that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head. And when we return, we shall see how far the investigative teams have gone in dealing with the new gen cases. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.